Greetings, shippers. Let's do this. Q&A. I have to say, I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of thought when I put the feelers out there, no one would reply, and then I would just be like, oh no questions. Guess I can't do it. But there were tons of questions, so I'm excited. And let's get to it. There were over 100 questions, so I'm not gonna be able to get to everybody, but I'm gonna do my best to answer as many as I can. And some were repeats, so we're gonna go through the FAQs as it were, and then work our way through it. This is probably gonna be a longer one, so get your popcorn ready, settle in, and let's see if we can make it to the end. Let's see if I'm entertaining enough to maintain interest for however long this goes on. Hopefully, and if not, that's why I'm doing the FAQs first. So sit back, relax, and let's just have some fun talking about shipping and fandom, because you know what? There aren't enough places and times to do that, and I always like talking about it, and I hope you do too. So one of the most frequently asked questions was, what's your OTP? With Coolest Ninja 1242 saying, there can only be one. Highlander reference aside, that's not true. There can be many. I made a whole video about OTPs and how it used to be that people could only have one, but nowadays people tend to have more than one. And I am definitely one of those people. So I actually have tons of OTPs, way too many to list. It would just be a whole video of, oh, I like that ship, and that ship's cool, and that ship's nice too. But I really did identify with this one question. It was from Spooky Phantom, and it was, what ship do you ship the most at this moment? Deshaun Slaughter also added to that sentiment, but added, and why? And I think that definitely represents my approach to shipping. I'm always shipping ships, but some more so than others at any given time. And when I'm done with a ship, it never fully vanishes. It just kind of fades. And there's always something that could trigger me and pull it back to the surface. Not internet trigger, like original trigger. As for the ship I'm shipping the most right now, probably Spones. I was going through Star Trek TOS trying to answer another question that I got, and it just made me remember how much I love that ship. I was watching the cheesy episode Bread and Circuses, you know, when you can tell they're slaves because they have two little tiny chain links on their t-shirts. I kind of wish those t-shirts existed. I would definitely buy one, but then again, I would buy pretty much all Star Trek merchandise. I have a problem. Along with what's your OTP, another frequently asked one was, what's your favorite ship? And I can't say I have a favorite. There are some I like more than others, but there isn't one that would be like the pinnacle above all ships. I know some of you were hoping I'd be like, it's John Locke and that's it, John Locke for life, but I just don't ship that way. It's also not John Locke for life, by the way. One of my favorite ships I have to say is Klex, and I was shipping Clark and Lex before Smallville, all the way from the DCAU. I just felt there was something there in their interactions. And then when the show came out and they had that whole, oh, we were friends backstory, I didn't care how cliche it was, I latched onto it. It was my favorite thing of the whole show. I watched Smallville all the way through, just hoping for all the Clark Lex moments that there could be. And my favorite thing I have to say in the fandom verse for that pairing are the fics that are future fics that incorporate the DCAU. So it has the canons and backstories from some of the comics, some of the DCAU, and the show. That's just, for me, it's a good afternoon. And there aren't that many, so I will scour the net looking for them. I think I've read every single one, but people still write in this fandom, which is great. So every few months I'll go back and check and see if there's something new. Over on Twitter, Sophia Oxenberry asked, what's your Voltron OTP? And I'm sorry to disappoint, I don't have one. I'm pretty lukewarm about all of the Voltron ships. None of them jump out at me, but I'm happy to talk about all of them. I think the one I'm kind of most interested in would probably be Ketor because of the parallels of both being half Galra, but yeah. So no, I'm not a Sheether or a Clancer or a Shaladin or a Shalura or any of those things. I like Voltron, but the shipping aspect is definitely not my favorite part of it. Marie DeNozo on Twitter asked, I got 2 questions. What is your OTP out of all the ships you've done, and which one is your favorite? Out of all the ships that I've done, that's really hard. There are a couple that I come back to a lot. Out of the ones I've done, I'd have to say Stony is probably my favorite. I'm not sure though, I happen to go back to it a lot. Cherik too, and Cherik was another thing I was shipping way before First Class, and I was just looking for any fics. There were like 10 on the internet, it was horrible. I was looking specifically for fics about the X-Men 90s animated series, the Savage Land arc. I think I found one. I was so excited I printed it out. Yeah, because when I was growing up, I printed out fanfiction because I was so afraid it was going to vanish, and that was the thing, because those sites would just shut down suddenly and they wouldn't be there anymore, and you'd be like, oh, that was my favorite fic, but now it's gone. But not me, because I still have a filing box full of ships that I printed, which is gonna be so weird for when anybody finds it. They're just gonna be like, why does she have this? And I'm gonna be like, cuz. Ooh, Space Unicorn asked, what is your OTP and OT3 in the Marvel and or DC? Huh, okay. Let's do this. Let's get in there. Okay. OTP DC style. I'm gonna have to go with Dick Grayson and Deathstroke. That's right. I'm talking about from the Nightwing arc, not from the TV series arc. I know there are a lot of like Dick Grayson Slade shippers out there, but he's just a bit too young in that for me. Unless you age him up, then I'm all for it. Can't tell how I'm sitting on camera. I feel like my body language is very closed because I'm so nervous. Hold on, let me just adjust myself and try and be more open. OT3 for DC, I have to be pretty basic and go with the trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. I just enjoy most shipping combinations from that, except for Superman and Wonder Woman. That's not my favorite one. Superman and Lois Lane for life. As for Marvel OTP, it's probably Stony, and I don't really have an OT3 from there, although I was really into the Stark Bucks, which was the Bucky, Captain America, Steve Rogers version, and Tony Stark, which was kind of popular around Civil War and a bit before after the Winter Soldier. Mostly after the Winter Soldier when it seemed like Winter Iron was still a possibility, which it still is for me, but I know it's a lot more difficult and problematic to ship now. That's okay. I can ship through anything, trust me. The next most frequently asked question was, what was your first ship? And there were some sub-questions in there, so I'm gonna go through the sub-questions first. Athena Marshall on Twitter asked, what was the first ship you started reading fanfiction for? Okay, and this is a bit of a preview into the anime questions that I got. I really enjoy anime, and my first ship was actually an anime ship, and it was Goku and Vegeta. Words could not express how embarrassingly into Dragon Ball Z I was back in the day. I was so into it. And I also had a crush on adult Trunks, which still kind of just a little, you know, he was hot. And I know some people think that's weird, like animated characters can't be hot, but I'm not one of them. I think they can be very hot. I was reading Goku and Vegeta and Bulma, and my goodness, were they not safe for work. And as a middle school student, that was really exciting. I don't know, I miss the Dragon Ball Z days. I know people were like, oh, it took so long to get everything done, but honestly, I didn't mind. I know it dragged on a bit, but it was really good, and I have a fondness for the dub. I know it's not the best dub in the universe, but it's probably nostalgia talking. I still like it. Harley DeMarin asked, what was the first fandom you remember being a part of? I consider this different than the first ship I was actively involved in because fandom is so much more than shipping. The first fandom that I got involved in where I really wanted to know more about the work, get behind the scenes, get merchandise, that kind of thing, go to events, was definitely Star Trek. Specifically Star Trek TNG. I got into the Next Generation before TOS because my dad had one of those VHS cassettes that he'd burned from TV, so it had all of these commercials on it. It had basically a bunch of episodes from the first season, which is honestly probably the worst season of TNG, but I still got into it. I watched that tape so many times, I memorized the commercials on it, and I still remember the very first commercial, which was for Swiss Chalet, that made me hate Swiss Chalet for life. If I can find it, I will put it in here, but basically it was this guy, and he's like, oh, tell your friends you're going out for a pizza, but then come back with Swiss Chalet. It's not pizza. And then he just starts laughing, and I'm like, I hate Swiss Chalet. I would hate anybody who did that to me. If I say I want pizza and you come back with Swiss Chalet, that is not the same thing. When you want pizza, not chicken. I don't know, maybe it's because I was recently pregnant, but when you want a certain thing for a certain craving, anything else is not gonna cut it. It really isn't. Anyway, since those days, I've been a Trekkie for life. Just always. It's definitely my favorite fandom, and I'll always be part of it, no matter what. Over on Twitter, Kraus Quartz asked, what was the first ship you felt super passionate about? Super passionate about? The first ship I felt super passionate about was definitely Louis and Lestat from the Vampire Chronicles. I loved Interview with the Vampire growing up. It was one of my favorite books. It still is. And even though their relationship is so messed up and meant to be a representation of grief and sadness, I fell for it. And for them, and I really wanted them to work it out. And so I was so involved in the fan fiction. And back in the day, there was also that added sense of danger because Anne Rice was really not pro fan fiction back in the day, to the point where she felt that it was infringing upon her intellectual property and there were threats of suing and all kinds of stuff. So whenever you found a site with fiction for this pairing, there was always like, oh my god, has she found it yet? Are they going to be sued? Is it going to be taken down? Meaning this is another bunch of fiction that I have printed. And it's a good thing because a lot of those sites didn't make it. And some of the authors by that point, they'd moved on. Not everybody who gets invested in a ship is invested in it forever, and a lot of them kind of just moved on from it, so some fics were never reposted, so I'm really glad that I printed what I did because some of them were really great. And I'm still passionate about it, by the way, and I still read her books, even though I will say there's been a definite decline and shift and change, which again, don't tell her because she's someone who will go off on you in the comments. It's scary, actually. Again on Twitter, Sarah Yoshi Kitty asks, do you have any no TP? And what's your comfort OTP? And then do you have any anime OTP? So I'm gonna answer the first two. I don't have any no TPs. Like, there are some ships I don't particularly care for, but there's none that I'm like, oh my god, get away from me. I can't ship that. You're disgusting. You're gross. It goes against the whole nature of my being and is part of why I got into this channel. I feel that there is a reason why everybody ships everything. And even if a ship isn't for me, there's nothing that hits me with such vehemence that I just need to stay away from it. And because of that, I've read some weird stuff. Oh my gosh, there's some weird pairings out there. And I love that. I think that's great. As for comfort OTP, that's just being, you know, you're feeling bad, you're feeling down, you want to read some fiction and just cheer yourself up. For me, that's actually a recent one that I found, which is Warfrost, which is Loki and Sif. I really like the idea of exploring Loki's backstory growing up and kind of being an outsider, and I like the contrast between him and Sif, as she is also an outsider in her own way. And I feel the two could come together and really buck expectations, because there's the whole, she's supposed to marry Thor, but uh-oh, she fell for the wrong brother. I know it's a really big cliche and a little cheesy, but I really like it, and it really cheers me up. And there are actually a lot of good fics out there, and they're long, which is great. I love me a long fic. A Wild Katie appeared asked, what is your favorite canon ship and what is your favorite non-canon ship? Okay, I know I said I don't play favorites, but in canon ships it's a bit different. Because canon is just established, it's out there, it's what it is, and whether you support it or not, it will always be what it is. I do have a favorite canon ship, and that is Morticia and Gomez Addams. For me, they are what people like to call relationship goals. I just love them. They fit together perfectly. It's them against the world. They live with their family, just all of their weirdness out there, and it's just, I love it. That was always the type of relationship I wanted to have, and I think I successfully found that. I definitely live with my Gomez, so yeah. The next most frequently asked questions were about anime ships. Where are they? Do you even anime, bro? Basically, no one actually asked it like that, but that was pretty much what it was. Firstly, we are definitely gonna do more anime ships, and secondly, I do anime. I love anime, and there was actually a question that asked what my favorites were. I'm gonna do that separately because I have a lot of favorites, and this video is already long, and we would just be here for the rest of it talking about my favorite anime, and nobody wants that, except for the person who asked that question. So you'll get a special video about that because I'm actually enjoying being on camera and I think it's going okay, so yay. Which actually leads me over to a question I got on Patreon, which was, have you ever seen or read every piece of media you cover? And the answer is yes. I don't talk about things that I don't know about. I feel that that's very disingenuous, and you can tell when a person is talking about something that they have no idea what it is. And that's part of why the anime ones take so long. The first one I didn't do this for, and it's why it's one of my least favorite videos, because I only watched the anime and I didn't dive into the manga. And for future ones, I've made sure that that was definitely not the case. So people want things like L and Light, and I want to do it, but when we're gonna do it, we're gonna watch Death Note. We're gonna read Death Note. We're gonna research all the stuff around Death Note. We're gonna look at some of the language choices between the dub and the sub, because that's important and can kind of change the meaning depending on what language you're watching it in. That's just the depth of research I like to personally do, and so it can make anime take a while, especially since I recently had a baby, so I can't stare at the screen for the ones that are only subs. You know, people really hate on dubs. No, only subs, we're purists. And it's like, okay, firstly, some dubs are good. A lot are bad, some are good, and some actually help contextualize based on what the topic of the anime is. But also, sometimes you can't look at the screen to read subs. I know from my own personal case with the baby, you can't just be sitting at home with a baby staring at a screen reading subtitles. And if you're trying to do research, the baby naps and sleeps, you need to nap and sleep. So really, anime's gonna be on the back burner for a while until we get a proper nap and sleep cycle going on. Another most frequently asked question was along the lines of, why did you start this channel and what made you start this channel? Well, my parents were killed by a rogue ship, and then one night when I was thinking about how to inspire terror into the hearts of others, a ship flew through my window, and that's when I knew I had to talk about shipping. Well, I've been on YouTube for a long time in various capacities. I was on it for fun in high school, and then I actually worked for a YouTube channel before I went on mat leave. I was the post-production supervisor for many channels and appeared on a couple of them, and some of you actually know me from there. But while I was working on all of these channels, my mom actually got very, very sick, and I'd had this idea for a channel just kicking around for a while, and when she got sick like that, it was just, I wanted her to see some of my work that I really wanted to do and that I was very proud of. So I started doing it. Also because you just start thinking about your own mortality and what you want to do with yourself. And this was something I really wanted to do. And as for why, which was something other people asked, I just really enjoy shipping and fandom. That part of fandom has always been a really positive aspect in my life, and it's always made me feel a lot better. So I wanted to put ships out there and maybe expose some people to some ships they hadn't seen before and explain why people like or didn't like them, because that's something that I just personally enjoy. I prefer that to just going and bashing on other ships. And so lots of the focus on discourse and negativity on drama, that really bums me out whenever it happens to a fandom. Like, I don't think I've ever been as sad as seeing that happen to the Voltron and Steven Universe fandoms. And I wasn't even that deeply into them, but just seeing it happen, it was just, these shows are supposed to be about tolerance and happiness and acceptance and fun, and just seeing them be dragged down like that by this part of fandom that's supposed to be just about expressing your fantasies and having a good time, it's just really disheartening. Even though I don't like stuff like that, that's part of why I talk about it, because I like to bring access to all sides, because it's so easy to get bogged down in just seeing one viewpoint, and there are so many sides to everything, and I find that really fascinating, and thankfully a lot of you guys seem to as well. Namanyeli asked, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, I'm going with a pneumonia kind of thing for the second word. Well, they wanted to know, why did you start YouTube? I started YouTube to make fan vids. There is a channel out there of all of my original fan vids that I started making from high school, because after I started with the fan fiction and reading it, I started going on YouTube and really getting into fan videos. And then one day I realized I have Windows Movie Maker, I can make fan videos, and I started. And that channel is still out there. For any of you who don't know, actually don't go there. Oh God. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and a lot of them are gone, which is really sad, because it was back in the day when instead of just linking to the iTunes account, they would just straight up delete videos that had music on them. So a lot of the ones I'm most proud of aren't even up there anymore. And I don't know if I care enough to repost them. But yeah, fan videos. That's why I started. Here's a question I really wanted to answer, and it's from Leah Goes Wild, and it was, do people sometimes think that it's strange that you as a grown woman like fandoms and shipping so much? Asking because I just turned 18 and there are people already telling me that I'm childish for being interested in these topics. Okay, firstly, forget those people. They are missing out so much. There's no rule that says once you hit a certain age, you have to stop liking things that are supposedly for younger people. Everybody has different things they're passionate about. It's not that different to be into, say, Star Trek, Doctor Who, fandoms, and being involved in them as, say, sports or wine. Everybody has their thing that makes them feel better and helps them relax. Yes, there are people who grow out of fandom and there are people who don't. As long as you're maintaining your own responsibilities in your life, it really doesn't matter. Like, if you're not blowing off your mortgage or your kids or anything like that for your fandom, then it really doesn't matter at all. Being an adult is just about making sure you maintain your responsibilities and live your life productively, properly, in a way that benefits as many people as possible. It has nothing to do with stopping liking Batman and stuff, because that's for kids. As for me, I don't think there are people that think it's weird. There probably are, but they haven't said anything to me, or they're not that serious about it. Like, one of my closest friends thinks I'm the hugest nerd in the universe, but she doesn't think that that's a bad thing. And it's kind of nice, honestly. Sometimes it's good to have people who look at you like, what are you talking about? Because you never want to fall too far down the well, which can happen if all of your friends are just fangirls. But I do have a lot of fangirl friends, and I enjoy talking about it. And there is nothing wrong about holding on to a part of yourself that makes you feel good and relaxes you and that you enjoy. Forget those people. Piggy Squishy asked, do you have an anti-OTP? Like a ship that you can't help but low-key secretly hate? Yes, it's a canon ship, and it's from one of those shows that I watch religiously and I really shouldn't. And that's Grey's Anatomy, and it's Meredith and Derek. They're both horrible, horrible people, and their relationship is horrible. And every time anybody says that they're end goals, I'm like, but they're horrible people. Now, some of you may be thinking, SG, that sounds an awful lot like a no TP. I thought you said you didn't have any. Well, hold on. It's actually not a no TP, because despite everything I just said, I do think they belong together. However, with that being said, all they do is hurt each other. I'm glad he got hit by a truck. Now we have one from Eggroll, who has been here forever. Shout out to Eggroll, hi. And the question is, do you personally ship most of the ships you make vids about? And the answer to that is, no, not really. Some of them I ship, some of them I don't ship. It makes absolutely... Oh my god, there's a siren going by. Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, banana guard. It makes absolutely no difference whether I ship a ship or not as to whether or not I'll talk about it, because I find all ships interesting, so I enjoy talking about all of them. Martina Lepic asked also what's your first fandom, but also do you have a guilty pleasure fandom or ship? I don't have any guilty pleasure ships because I'm proud of all my ships. I don't care. Guilty pleasure fandom, yes. It's pretty much anything that's just a soap opera. And I'm not really guilty about it. It's just I know that they're not always the best quality of shows, but I can't stop. Won't stop. Right now it's Nashville. I'm just powering through that. I have seen, I think, 3 seasons of Nashville in about, I don't know, a week. And I'm loving it. And I don't care. Reigning Crowns wanted to know gender of the baby / name, also your name. And last but not least, who do you ship Luna with? Okay, there have been a couple of questions about the crib, which I don't fully understand because I do have a baby. I would not have a crib in my home without a baby in it. I had a little girl about 4 months ago at the time of this recording, and she's just been a great joy to my life. It's honestly, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so grateful and so blessed to have her in my life. As for my name, it's not a secret. I just never thought I was going to be on camera, so I never introduced myself. And then when I got on camera, I just always forget to. Just like I always forget my social media. Anyway, my name is Sasha. Some of you who came from the other channels that I was on actually already know that, so yeah, hello again. Just some random facts since we're getting to know each other better along with my name. I'm a fan of many things, not just all of the multitude of fandoms that I cannot even name that I'm a part of. Also a huge fan of makeup and lipstick, obsessed, I have a problem, and nail polish. Huge nail polish collection. I am also a proud Slytherin, for those who are asking about my Harry Potter house. For some reason in my Dramione video, there were some people who got the idea that I was anti-Slytherin or bashing Slytherins in some way. That is definitely not the case. Slytherin for life, best house, favorite house, and I actually have some fun collabs coming up with a fellow Slytherin, so keep your eyes open for that. But now back to the baby questions. Amadea Collado asked, when will we see your baby on camera? The answer is probably never. I have a thing about kids on camera if they can't consent and they don't know what's happening. And just imagine years later she looks and she hates it and she's all over the internet. I couldn't live with myself if that was the case. But will she be a shipping fanatic? Probably. She's already stolen my Spider-Man plushie and it's her new favorite toy, so I think we're well on the way to her becoming at least some kind of nerdy fangirl. Ina1Ilk asks, what are your favorite rare ships? Well, I made a whole video once about my favorite rare ship. It was my one indulgence video at the time. Tony Stark, Jessica Jones. Please, people, make it happen.
They exist in here. In my mind. I created it. Don't you understand? It is real.
I then got a question about how people can send me fan art if they want to. And the answer is you can send it to my Twitter at Shipper's Guide. I also have a Facebook, also Shipper's Guide. And if anything, always you can just email me at shippersguidetotogalaxy@gmail.com. Please, if you have fan art, send it. I love fan art. It is my favorite thing in the world. Like fics and fan art, they really war in my mind as to which I enjoy more. Probably fics though, because I get more hours out of reading the fics. Karen E on Twitter asked, how long does it take to make a video and how do you tend to gather material for it? Well, how long it takes really varies. It depends on how big the ship is, how old it is, and how popular it is. All of those things will determine how much content there is for it. Also, is it a show, a book, a comic? There are so many factors. So it can range from maybe a week to maybe a month or more. It really depends. That's part of why the supernatural most shippable moments take so long, because I watch all of the episodes, I take notes on all the episodes, then I write up the notes on each pairing from each season, because I'm gonna do each pairing, because I'm not gonna have to go back and be like, oh, now I wanna do Denny, but I didn't take any notes for Denny. So it's a real experience just sitting there and getting all the stuff. And sometimes you have to watch an episode again because you're looking at your notes and you're like, did I get that? And then of course you go on, you find any kind of definitions that you need, any fandom drama, which means sometimes going back in time on Tumblr or Reddit, which can be very difficult on Tumblr. Tumblr is not the most conducive for if you're looking for a very specific thing without a link. Honestly, being on camera has cut down the time, but not that much. This is probably gonna be the shortest video that I've ever done, and I'm looking at the recording time right now and it's 40 minutes. Oh my god, and I haven't even gotten to half the questions. I'm so sad. Lexi Craniac asked, do you plan to do more crossover ships ships / explanations in the future? And the answer is yes, definitely. Crossovers are quite fascinating, both canon ones and fanon ones, and for some reason they have a really negative reputation. So a lot of times they just aren't discussed, and there are people doing some really amazing things with them, like all the amazing fan vids of the Disney mashups, where the characters are all just so painstakingly keyed out. Those are beautiful and they deserve more attention. Or the amazing mashups between animation and live action. Those are so good. So of course we're going to talk more about stuff like that. Ooh, Demi Carrasco over on Patreon asked, how did you find the world of fandoms? What made you stay? Was there a moment that ever made you want to leave a fandom, and have you ever left one? Okay, so I found the world of fandoms, I think, on my own, but getting into actually being involved in them online and that kind of stuff, I had a friend named Zach back in middle school who came to school one day with a fanfic from Legend of Zelda, and I don't remember what the pairing was. I just remember it was not safe for school, that's for damn sure. And we all had a great time reading it and realizing that there was this amazing site called fanfiction.net where people were going and they were posting all this stuff. So then I started to explore it, and then the Goku and Vegeta stuff happened, and the rest is pretty much history. What made me stay? I just really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I found it very relaxing and a way to escape into my own head, which was something that I always did anyway. It wasn't so much the community aspect for me, but the creativity of seeing all the stuff people were doing and how passionate they were about it, since I was so passionate about it myself. And yes, for those people who asked, I did write some fan fiction back in the day, and no, none of it is still online, which is a good thing, because it was terrible. Was there a moment that ever made me want to leave fandoms? There have been. They're more so recently than there used to be. I was always more of a fan fiction, fan arty person and less involved in the actual discourse elements of fandom, so they didn't tend to bother me. But when I started researching it, you have to get involved and find out what's going on, what people are saying. And so there have been a few times where I've wanted to leave a fandom. I've never left. No, there is no fandom that I've actually been turned away from. Sometimes I've had to take a break and maybe come back later. That definitely happened with Steven Universe. I had to take a long break from that fandom because things got so crazy. But I always come back because if I love the product, I always just start thinking, so many people worked on this and they worked hard and it's really good, and I'm not gonna let a few rotten eggs ruin everything, even if they are loud, abrasive, aggressive rotten eggs. Sally Gregors asked, has becoming a parent changed your view or affected your view on shipping or on your channel? Becoming a parent hasn't really changed my outlook so much as refocused my priorities. The baby and my family are the #1 priorities in my life, and they always will be, and they have to be. But as for shipping, no, not really. And I always already had younger siblings, so that kind of affected how I viewed certain characters or ships anyway. Like, I have to say, nobody asked this, but Damian Wayne, can we talk about why people think it's cute that he's precocious and abrasive and doesn't listen to his father and is mean to his older brother Nightwing and all of that stuff? And yes, I count him as his brother, even though Nightwing is adopted / a ward, depending on the canon. If you have ever dealt with children that age who are giving you sass, it is not cute, it is not funny. And ooh, every time I read Damian Wayne being obnoxious, I just have a flash to being in a room with that child and having to put up with it. Poor Bruce. Okay, rant over. And in keeping with how I feel about everything, there are lots of really positive things about Damian, and he can be a really interesting character, especially when they get into his pathos about how he was raised and the disconnect he feels from people. Just the fact that they play off that rudeness a lot of times, depending on who's writing, is cute. Rude kids aren't cute. Sumi Sue asked, have you heard of Tamari, aka Tom Riddle and Harry Potter? If you have, what do you think of them? Have I heard of Tamari? Of course I have. I was all about Tamari back in the day. Not that I shipped it, but just that I find it to be a very fascinating concept. And someday, if enough people wanted it, yes, I would definitely talk about it.
And now for something completely different.
Side note, I was on the Voltron Amino because I enjoy it and I actually use it, but I saw a bizarre PSA that was saying that people shouldn't say that they don't ship something before complimenting a piece of work, like saying like, oh, I don't ship this, but it's beautiful, saying that that was really negative and would hurt the creator's feelings. And while I can definitely see that viewpoint, I just have to point out that it could also be a compliment. Someone saying that they don't normally go for a ship or a character, but that you made them really enjoy them anyway, can also be viewed as a positive thing. Just basically a reminder that there are two sides to everything, and it's always best not to think that people are going out of their way to insult you unless that's clearly the intent. It's always best to jump to a positive point of view before going to a negative point of view, because it's so easy to fall down the negativity rabbit hole, especially in fandom for some reason. People are just so passionate about all the ships and how they feel, and they become so attached to them that if you let yourself get into that negative headspace, it can really spiral out of control. So I answered as many as I could. I hope that was interesting. I hope you made it all the way to the end and stayed with me. If you did, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I, for some reason, thought I was going to be able to power through all these questions, and that did just not happen. So I'm going to do another one of these in the future, because I got so many questions about favorite things, and I could do a whole favorite things episode, or favorite TV shows, or favorite Star Trek episode. And you know I'm obsessed with Star Trek, especially if you follow me on Twitter. I have a problem. I will post a video even if nobody watches it. I will watch it. I will hit refresh over and over again and make my Star Trek videos happen. And finally, something I should have said at the very beginning, thank you for 100 episodes. When I first started this, I didn't know if it was going to go anywhere, and I was just doing it for fun, and I still am, but I'm so glad that so many of you are having fun with me. That makes me so happy. You can't even imagine. Reading the comments, replying to people, seeing the engagement on these videos is one of my favorite things. It makes my day, really. Sometimes after a rough day, you know, baby won't sleep, crying all the time, you finally get her down, and you go on and just see what people are talking about in a fandom on my vids or just in general. It's so great. So I just have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm looking forward to the next 100 and the next 100. So I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your question. I cataloged all of them. They're all sitting here, and I wanted to do so many, but I also didn't want to take your whole lives with this video. Also, my phone, which I film on, which is why the quality is always varying, is running out of time. It's counting down and it's blinking at me, so I feel like we should quit while we're ahead. So if you liked this, let me know, and I will definitely do another one sometime in the future and answer so many of the questions that I didn't get a chance to and that I really wanted to. And again, thank you so much for sending in all your questions, and for enjoying this channel, and for joining me on this journey, and for hopefully continuing on, because we have so much more to do. I also really want to answer that question that someone asked me about when Once Upon a Time went downhill. But again, we would be here all day. It is so much more complicated than me just putting up a picture of that Elsa arc. It started before that. We need to talk about it. When I read that question to my husband, he was like, when Graham died. But then he was like, wasn't that season 2? So he lost all cred, because Graham died in episode 7, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. Sit down, Gomez. If you're fine with these more chit-chatty, personal kind of videos, let me know and I'll do more. And I know some of you were like, SG, just do what you want. It's your channel. It's like, yes, it is my channel, but I also want to do things people enjoy. It's a relationship. It's not just me being bleh. I do what I want and I film what I want. As always, thanks so much for watching. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out social media to stay up to date. Special thanks to everyone who submitted questions, and also special thanks to all my patrons, names on the side. And as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.